How many of you have been exposed to something called titration, neutralization? By being exposed, I basically mean you have been taught neutralization. 10, 9, 8, whenever. How many of you have been taught neutralization? Acid-base reaction is called neutralization. And have you done any calculations around it? Any calculations involving neutralization? All right. Now we'll see the application front, as I told you. For the time being, after normality, molarity, the third unit which comes to mind is going to be percent strength. Now who will define it for me? What do you mean by percentage strength? So many times you'll find 10% H2SO4, 20% NaOH. What will that mean?
Percentage of the solute.
Now percentage will have to mean percentage.
Out of the solvent.
Well, every time you respond to me, you'll feel like coming up with a proper response. You'll want to be very clear. It should not sound as if you're trying to help me. And that is all right. You might be confused, but it should not sound like you're just giving me hints.
Number of grams of solute per 1000 grams of the solvent.
Number of grams of solute per.
1000 grams of the solvent.
That sounds more like it. All right. So percent strength.
So mass of solute in grams by mass of solution in grams.
Maybe another way of narrating the same. Percentage, is always going to be in terms of 100 particles. Now, let me tell you all of it. It could be percent by mass, percent by volume, or the third one will be most popular, which will be only percentage. So you could be told 10% H2SO4 by mass, and when they add by mass to it, 10% sulfuric acid or NaOH by mass will mean, say 10% by mass will mean 10 gram per 100 gram of the solution. 10% by mass will mean 10 gram per 100 gram of the solution. By volume would mean say 10 ml per 100 ml of the solution. 10 ml per 100 ml of the solution. So when it's by mass, it's mass by mass. When it's by volume, it's ml by ml. Yes or no? But these would be given very rarely. Very, very rarely, it's going to be 10% by mass or 10% by volume. More often, almost every time in a problem, you will be given only 10% H2SO4. Now this is significant, this is important. Almost every time it will be only 10% sulfuric acid, and when it's only 10% of H2SO4 or 10% of anything, it will be mass by volume. You'll want to know this. 10% sulfuric acid will mean, and this is going to be encountered more often, I repeat, 10% sulfuric acid will mean 10 gram of sulfuric acid per 100 ml of the solution. 10% sulfuric acid will mean 10 gram of the solute, 10 gram of the chemical per 100 ml of the solution. Got me? So percentage will mean number of grams per 100 ml of the solution, number of grams per 100 ml of the solution. Yes, we will want to move on now. And then when it comes to percentage to molarity, percentage to normality, believe me, I will not be up to again giving you some stupid results by which you'll be able to convert percentage change to molarity or normality. I'll want you people to be doing it very fundamentally and instinctively. So if you have to convert percentage change to molarity or normality, you'll want to go by definition, you'll want to go by instincts, and I'm not going to give you any relationship between percentage change to molarity or normality. What I'll do is, I hope I can rub all of it now. And almost every time we'll be dealing with only percentage, which will mean number of grams per 100 ml. So what if you have %, NaOH. Now 20% NaOH will mean 20 gram per 100 ml, 20 gram per 100 ml, yes or no? So you know, very quickly you'll understand 20 gram per 100 ml is like 200 gram per liter, 200 gram per liter, and weight upon molecular weight or equivalent weight. What is the molecular weight of NaOH? What's the molecular weight of NaOH? 40. What's the equivalent weight of NaOH? 40 again. Here the N factor is 1. So weight upon molecular weight. Now this time the molecular weight or the equivalent weight both being 40, this will be the number of moles or number of equivalents per liter, number of moles or number of equivalents per liter, and you know you'll be able to calculate that 20% NaOH is like 5 molar NaOH or 5 normal NaOH. No wonder normality and molarity are same because the N factor is 1. Yes or no? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So given percent strength, you will want to calculate molarity and normality, and for this you will not depend upon some stupid relationship proposed by a textbook or anyone else. You know, percentage to molarity and normality should be done very fundamentally. I hope you all are there with me. 20% NaOH would mean 20 grams per 100 ml, 200 gram per liter, and we will find the number of moles per liter, number of equivalents per liter to reduce the molarity or normality. Moving on, if it's the other way, suppose it's 2 molar sulfuric acid. The 2 molar sulfuric acid will mean 2 moles per liter, or would mean 196 grams per liter. 2 moles will be 196 grams. 196 grams per liter. I hope this is least confusing. 2 molar sulfuric acid will mean 2 moles per liter. 2 moles will weigh 196 grams. So 196 grams per liter, it should look like 19.6 gram per 100 ml, and you know the way we use percentage, it's going to be 19.6%. It's going to be 19.6% sulfuric acid. So this is how you know you'll want to convert normality molarity to percentage pretty fundamentally. All right. So know about percent strength now, and then let's move to the next unit used to calculate the strength of a solution. I hope I can rub it now. And tell me if you have heard of mole fraction. Heard of mole fraction? Mole fraction is going to be, what's going to be mole fraction?
So the ratio of moles of solute divided by the moles of solution.
All right. Mole fraction, as the name sounds, you know, is going to be the fraction of or the ratio of the number of moles of that component upon total number of moles. Number of moles of that component upon total number of moles. Suppose I am forming a binary solution. Binary means there are 2 components A and B, or maybe a ternary solution. There is another compound C. I have a mixture or solution of A, B and C, where I have Na moles of A, Nb moles of B and Nc moles of C. ठीक है? Na moles of A, Nb moles of B and Nc moles of C are added up to form a solution. Now the mole fraction of A would be number of moles of A upon total number of moles. Now conventionally, when I write Na, Nb, Nc, I'll mean the number of moles of A, B and C respectively. And yet again conventionally out here, I'm going to represent mole fraction as an XA. So XA would stand for mole fraction of A. XA would stand for mole fraction of A. Now mole fraction of A would be equal to number of moles of A upon total number of moles. Mole fraction of B similarly would be number of moles of B upon total number of moles. And mole fraction of C would be, as you predict, number of moles of C upon total number of moles. Mole fraction of a chemical would be uska number of moles upon total number of moles. And as it's pretty evident, if you add up the mole fractions of all the components, mole fractions of all the components will add up to unity. Mole fraction of all the components will add up to unity. Yes or no? So expect the mole fraction of all the components to add up to unity. All right, this one thing which people pick up very readily. I believe we'll be good at pointing out the mistakes I do here. Mole fraction of A plus B plus C is going to add up to unity. ठीक है? Now normality, molarity, percent strength will be very common units, all of chemical stoichiometry problems involving, because when we talk of a problem involving sulfuric acid, it would become so imperative to know what's the concentration of the solution. You'll want to know, and only the molarity, percent strength, you'll be able to know how much of sulfuric acid is in per liter or per ml of the solution. Don't you think that's going to be imperative? Yes or no? And then there are going to be some unique units, some particular units for particular specific chemicals. We'll see the application of all of it, but before that, let's talk of a peculiar unit which is called volume strength. Volume strength. Heard of volume strength? Anyone? Heard of volume strength? So when you don't respond, it means a no. Volume strength. Heard of H2O2? Heard of H2O2? Terribly unstable molecule because of peroxo bond. I must have told all of it. The problems involving H2O2. H2O2 being terribly unstable and dissociating in this way, because the peroxo bond is not stable, I do end up telling you, it's going to be a great oxidizing agent, because it's going to furnish nascent oxygen. Because it's furnishing nascent oxygen, it's going to be a very good oxidizing agent. Acting as an oxidizing agent, it's going to be a useful laboratory reagent. And then in all problems involving H2O2, we're going to decipher a new strength, which is volume strength, a new way of measuring the strength of the solution. Before I talk more about volume strength, let's know a few facts about H2O2. And this is where it could be a little unorganized. Chances are all of H2O2 and things which I am going to convey to you will be part of a topic of inorganic chemistry, but it's apt to know a few facts about H2O2 before we make headway into this unit, which is volume strength. First of all, I must have told you peroxide is an unstable compound. Peroxide is not stable. Peroxo bond is not stable. And this being unstable is going to dissociate readily into water and oxygen. Peroxides being unstable, as a matter of fact, peroxide being unstable will not be produced from any other oxide. I repeat, because peroxides are unstable, peroxides will not come from any other oxide, and the rule would be a peroxide will be obtained from another peroxide. Peroxides being unstable, please take a note of it, peroxide will come from another peroxide. So to get H2O2, or to produce H2O2, this is going to be, say, the laboratory method of preparing H2O2. Barium peroxide will be made to react with sulfuric acid, dilute, you will get H2O2 plus barium sulfate, which you know is a white precipitate. Yes or no? See, I tell you, this is the laboratory method of preparing H2O2. This is the laboratory method of preparing H2O2, which chances are you'll come across much later in class 11. But this will be the lab method of preparing H2O2. These are hydrated crystals of barium peroxide treated as BaO2.8H2O, treated with dilute sulfuric acid will produce H2O2 and barium sulfate ka precipitate. Got me? And H2O2 being very unstable, there are going to be a lot of precautionary measures, a lot of protocols observed while preparing or storing H2O2. I don't recall if I did tell you that first of all, H2O2 is kept away from heat or light. Stored in dark colored bottles. H2O2 is stored in dark colored bottles away from heat and light. Then this reaction is carried out at almost ice cold temperature. Temperature close to 0 degrees Celsius. Barium peroxide taken, you could see, is always the hydrated one. Sulfuric acid is always dilute. No concentrated acid is used. HCl or nitric acid, even in the dilute form, are not used at all. Barium peroxide taken is always hydrated. You will want to store H2O2 away from heat or light. Low temperature is maintained while H2O2 is being prepared. Concentrated acids are never taken, and sulfuric acid which is dilute taken. HCl and nitric acid even in the dilute form is not taken. Alright. And there is a very strange, very peculiar sequence which is again observed while carrying out this reaction. I want to bring it to your notice. Every time, the convention would be, you will want to add barium peroxide to acid. You will want to add barium peroxide to acid, and never acid to barium peroxide. So this is what is going to be observed. Every time you will want to add barium peroxide to acid, and you will never add the acid to barium peroxide. This will never happen. This will not be entertained. And I end up telling you about so many measures, so many precautions observed while preparing or storing H2O2. And believe me, the answers to all of them would lie in this particular equation, which is about H2O2 dissociating very readily. H2O2 is dissociating very readily. I repeat, H2O2 containing a peroxo bond is going to be pretty unstable and would readily dissociate to water plus oxygen. This reaction would occur very readily at a temperature much below the boiling point of H2O2. Over a period of time, all of H2O2 is supposed to get dissociated, decomposed this way. Take down. This decomposition of H2O2, this decomposition of H2O2 or dissociation of H2O2, this decomposition or dissociation of H2O2 is accelerated by heat, light, is accelerated by heat, light, presence of oxidizing agent, metal, alkali or base is going to be accelerated by heat, light, presence of oxidizing agent, metal, metallic oxide or base, and will be retarded by the dissociation will be retarded by presence of acid or alcohol, will be retarded by presence of acid or alcohol, Now maybe we'll address all these issues one by one, because heat or light is going to accelerate this dissociation. You'll want to keep H2O2 away from heat, light and dark colored bottles. All right. Ice cold temperature, you'll want to keep temperature very low. You can't go beyond or you can't go below 0 degrees Celsius, because yet again you'll be doing all of this in aqueous medium. The reaction medium would be water only. So you can't go below 0, because that will freeze water and there will be no medium to work in. Yes or no? You'll want to keep temperature down, because yet again heat is going to accelerate the dissociation. Barium peroxide is kept hydrated. Who will want to answer it? Why barium peroxide is kept hydrated? You got to believe that anything in hydrated form will have more volume and more surface area. We draw water out of something and it's going to contract or shrink. Yes or no? So crystalline form, a hydrated crystalline form will have more surface area. Now barium peroxide will be covered by barium sulfate ka precipitate. Barium peroxide will be covered by or coated by barium sulfate ka precipitate. And once all of barium peroxide is coated, you have seen something of this before. Once all barium peroxide is coated with barium sulfate ka precipitate, the action of acid over barium peroxide will stop. Yes or no? Yes or no? Barium sulfate is going to cover barium peroxide, and once all of barium peroxide is covered with barium sulfate, the action of acid over barium peroxide will stop and the reaction will stop there. Barium peroxide in hydrated form 1 is going to have more surface area, and the process is going to run for prolonged period. All right. 2. Water crystallization is going to have a good cooling effect. So that's going to further keep the temperature down. All right. So that's why you find barium peroxide in hydrated form as the reagent. Dilute sulfuric acid is taken. Tell me why.
Add barium peroxide to concentrated solution.
For the time being, I am talking about this. Dilute sulfuric acid is taken. I did tell you an oxidizing agent will further accelerate the process. An oxidizing agent will further accelerate the process. ये तो ऐसे ही हो रहा है, इसको एक ऑक्सीजन मिल जाएगा ना, then this will look more complete. So it will happen more happily. I got oxygen O2 here. So if this gets an oxidizing agent, presence of H2O2 would further accelerate the process. So yes, sulfuric acid, nitric acid. In dilute form, it's not a good self-oxidizing agent. Dilute sulfuric acid is not an oxidizing agent. People are supposed to know that concentrated sulfuric acid is a good oxidizing agent. Yes or no? So you want to avoid concentrated sulfuric acid, which is an oxidizing agent, would further accelerate the dissociation of H2O2. Nitric acid, kitna hi dilute ho, nitric acid in a very dilute form still is a good oxidizing agent. Nitric acid is actually an amazing, very strong oxidizing agent. You'll relate to it. You'll learn that nitric acid is going to be one of the strongest oxidizing agents known. So nitric acid is an absolute no-no. Plus, more concentrated acid is going to generate more heat. What's the difference between concentrated acid and dilute acid? It's about how much water you add to it. That's it. Yes or no? If you add more water, you're diluting the acid. So concentrated acid will generate more heat. The reaction will be more vigorous. You'll want to keep the temperature down. You don't need concentrated acid here. You don't need nitric acid because it's also an oxidizing agent, I tell you. But what's wrong with HCl? What's wrong with HCl? Who will tell me? Why can't you use HCl here? Yes? HCl? Not really. Why can't you take HCl? Yes, please. Which is good. You don't need an oxidizing agent. You do not need an oxidizing agent. Huh? It will retard the dissociation, which is good. You don't want to lose it. An acid will retard the dissociation of H2O2, agreed. But this is what you want. You don't want it to be lost. Yes, please. Sorry? Not at all. Not at all. HCl is a strong acid. Yes, please. Anyone? Why don't you take HCl? Sorry? That's true again, but it's not like I need an oxy acid here. Alright, so still it's alright, at times I'd want to know what's running in your mind, and it's going to be mutually good if you come up with that. Sorry? No, it's not like that. It's not like HCl produces more heat. ऐसा नहीं है. Sorry? Sorry? Not really. You will not get chlorine, my friend. If you take HCl, instead of barium sulfate, you will get barium chloride. You need to figure that out. Instead of sulfuric acid, if you take HCl, instead of barium sulfate, you will get barium chloride. यही तो होगा. The rest would remain same. HCl ले लो, you will get H2O2 plus barium chloride. Problem क्या है? He's saying it's not a precipitate.